Today we're going to look at the natural resources, goods, and jobs that can be found in Iqaluit, Nunavut. Before we get too far into our conversation today, let's define what a natural resource is. Natural resource is two words. The first, natural, means coming from nature, and resource is something that we can use. So that means a natural resource is something that comes from nature that we can use. There are two types of natural resources. We have renewable resources that can naturally regrow or regenerate after they're used. For example, solar energy or energy from the sun is a renewable resource. And we can gather and collect that energy when the sun is shining. And when the sun goes down, we can't collect it anymore. But the sun will come up tomorrow and we'll be able to collect more solar energy. Non-renewable resources are resources that take a long time to replenish or that exist in a limited amount on Earth. An example of this is oil. When organisms die and they're buried under the ground, it takes millions of years under high pressure and high temperature for those organisms to turn into things like oil and gas. Metamorphic rocks, like soapstone, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is formed under high heat and high pressure over a period of time. So once we remove that from the ground and we use that soapstone, it's going to take a long time for the conditions to be right for that soapstone to be created again. In the north, there are lots of natural resources that we can talk about. We have land animals and sea animals. We talked about the oil a little bit. We have soapstone here and some gold. Let's take a closer look at one of these natural resources. Here we have the caribou. The caribou is a fantastic resource that the people of Iqaluit and Nunavut can use. The caribou has been an important animal for the Inuit for a long time. Now, the Inuit didn't just hunt the caribou for food to eat, but they believed it was important that they use every part of the animal. And so its fur became clothes and its bones and antlers became tools. These we call goods. Goods are something that are created or made from the natural resource. Let's take a look at some of the jobs that are available in a community when the resource of caribou exists there. When we talk about food as a good, you need a hunter who's going to go hunt for the animal, a harvester who's going to break the animal down into the parts that are going to be used. And you need somebody to cook that food when it comes back to the community. When we talk about clothing and tools, we need a clothing maker or a tool maker to take those resources and turn them into the goods that the community can use. Let's take a look at one more example here, and that is the example of oil. Now, oil gets turned into lots of useful products like propane, gas, both diesel and gasoline for our vehicles, and asphalt, which is used to create roads and shingles on the roof of your house. Now, what kind of jobs does this resource bring to the communities in the Nunavut territory? Well, right now, even though there are vast amounts of oil available in Nunavut, no crude oil or natural gas production can be found. That's because the government of Canada in 2019 issued an order prohibiting or not allowing oil and gas activities to continue in that area. Now, let's take a look at the conversation around oil and some of the reasons the government of Canada might have made this decision. Now, on one hand, oil production would bring jobs to a community. It would employ the people of Nunavut in the oil industry, and not just the oil workers. You would need ships to carry the oil. You would need more housing in the form of hotels. On the other hand, there is concern about how oil production would affect the environment. Would producing oil and having all sorts of ships come through the area chase away the wildlife? What would happen if the Inuit lost one of their food sources? Although there are many natural resources in Nunavut territory, how and when those natural resources are used has to be balanced with the impact it will have on the people, animals, and the environment. It is important to use these natural resources carefully. Renewable resources can take time to replace, and non-renewable resources won't be replaced in our lifetime.